Hello, everyone, and welcome again to another episode of Heart to Heart. And glad to be coming your way each and every day. And I hope that you're enjoying it and being blessed by it. I'm John Kurt, the interim pastor at First Assembly in Newcastle, and it's coming. We're coming down to the end of another week pretty soon here, and it's been good. Time flies when you're having fun, and I'm having a great time. It's not necessarily fun. Well, I guess it is, I suppose, and I'm enjoying myself immensely being here. And I'm looking forward to the time when we can fellowship more and see one another in person and share in the sanctuary, and that's coming soon, I do believe. Well, this week we've been looking back at the story of Joseph in the Old Testament, Genesis, and we've been tracing his life from the time when his brothers tried to kill him, were jealous of him because of his coat of many colors and he was his father's favorite, to when he was in Egypt, sold off as a slave, into prison, and ultimately raised up to number 2 in power in Egypt. And all because God, 13 or 14 years before that, foresaw that there would be a famine in the land. And God raised Joseph up to save his family. Think about that. One of his brothers was Judah, and it was through Judah that came the Messiah. And so God spared that line that would bring ultimately the Messiah. God has plans like we cannot believe. Trust me, he has plans. And as we were talking about Joseph and tracing his life this week, I started thinking back of what God has done for me through my years of ministry. It's been quite a while now. Started in Aliquippa. It was my first church, a little church, and from there I went to Kansas City. From Kansas City, as a youth pastor, I went to Newcastle here as the youth pastor, working with Pastor David Owen. We were only in Kansas City for less than a year, and God provided for me an open door here in Newcastle. I was going through a time of worry and anxiety in Kansas City, and I do believe that God gave me this open door and had Brother Owen invite me to come to be the youth pastor here at First Assembly. It was a great 8 years, really was. And it just lifted me and blessed me, and it was such a blessing to work with Pastor Owen. And yet through that time, I started getting into some pits of fear and worry and anxiety myself. And then, it seemed like when Pastor Owen left, I was thinking that maybe I would be chosen to be the pastor of this church, but God obviously had a different plan. Took me to Sarver, and I spent the last 35 years until I retired 5 years ago. And through that time in Evangel Heights Church, right here in Sarver, God used us, and we had some tremendous times. God helped us to establish a Christian school, a daycare center. We had a Christian radio station, and the church grew, and we went through 6 building programs, including a sanctuary that seats about 1,100. And so it's just been an incredible journey, and through all of that, God has provided for us, even in the midst of those building programs when we had to step out in faith and lead the congregation in giving for some pretty big projects, like the building of our sanctuary. And we stepped out and we made commitments that if we had sold everything that we had at that time, our cars, our furniture, everything. We didn't own a house because we were living in a parsonage, but if we had sold everything, we could have not paid that off. But you know what? We stepped out in faith and God provided for us. It was amazing. God provided the year that Lisa was about ready to go into college. We didn't have anything saved up for college. And you might think, well, that's awful. But hey, folks, I was living on below poverty wages through most of my ministry up to that point. Didn't have any extra to put away for anything, and certainly not a college education. But you know what? We stepped out in faith and gave for made a faith promise to give to our building program. And that summer, God provided a job for Sandy teaching in Freeport Area School District, and would teach for the next 25 years. Not only paid for Lisa's college education, but it paid for Jonathan's college education, and it's just been such a blessing. And I've seen how God really is Jehovah Jireh. Even when we went through some difficult times in those years of inflation, when interest rates were so high, God provided for us, and as we went on mission trips, God always made a way for us. I could spend hours telling you stories, adventures overseas, especially, of how God provided for us, and so you know what? God's no respecter of persons. God didn't love Joseph any more than he loves me, or any more than he loves you. He's no respecter of persons. He was Jehovah Jireh to Joseph. He has been Jehovah Jireh to all the prophets down through the centuries, to the disciples, and down through the centuries to countless ministers of the gospel. He has been Jehovah Jireh, and through each and every one of our lives. And he wants to be. He wants to be Jehovah Jireh. That's one of his names. And we have to believe that he will always come through. He's never too late with too little. And so today, as we will wrap this, we'll have one more devotional tomorrow, Friday. But as we wrap this story of Joseph up today, God is no respecter of persons. It's no secret. That song we used to sing, what he's done for others, he will do for you, and he will make a way for you. If you're in a pit of discouragement or despair, if your spiritual journey has taken you into a desert, like Joseph went through that desert, if you're in a slavery to sin, maybe there's some addiction or sin, some rut, he can set you free. If you're in a prison of fear and anxiety and doubt, it may be over the economy, it may be over the world situation, it may be over this pandemic that we're going through. Be aware, folks. There will be pits, there will be deserts, there will be temptations, prisons of doubt and fear, but we must never lose sight of the God-given dreams that he has put in our hearts. And we must always look to the future, because God is the God of the present, but he's also the God of the future, and he will bring us through. Never forget, God is Jehovah Jireh. And always believe, like Joseph said to his brothers at the end of his life, he's on his deathbed, he said, God will surely come to your aid. Why don't you say that right now? God will surely come to my aid, because he is Jehovah Jireh. He's the same yesterday, today, and forever. God is all powerful. He always keeps his promises, and he still is the great provider, Jehovah Jireh. So I hope that you'll let these things sink into your heart and into your mind, and allow the Holy Spirit to just cause them to grow and grow until you are just like Joseph of old. Well, God bless you. Have a great day. We'll See you tomorrow for one more for this week of Heart to Heart. In the meantime, may God bless you. And I just like put in a little plug for Sunday, drive-in church again. And as I said, I think pretty soon we're going to be meeting back in the sanctuary. So God bless you. Have a great day.